If you were alive in the late 90s, you'd probably remember a little something like this.
Yvonne and Chester Rich are getting ready for Y2K.
A lot of crackers and stuff for the cats.
You did fix them, right, Dad? Because even a single faulty unit could corrupt every other computer in the world.
Indeed, and Kevin, we mustn't forget that with all this excitement going on, there are some very, very worried people all over the world.
Chances are, you were one of the people who thought the world was going to end when the year 2000 rolled around. Don't lie, I know you panicked. But what if I told you that some pretty weird things did actually end up happening, and the fear for the Y2K virus wasn't actually that far-fetched? Today, lady and man, we are taking a deep dive into the Y2K bug, and the weird truth behind how close we actually were to society crumbling. Buckle up, because there's a lot more to this story than you'd realize. In the final months of 1999, a panic began to spread across the world. It wasn't tied to any government or war, or any threat that you could actually see. It was a computer bug, a programming issue buried deep inside the code of systems running the modern world. And as the year 2000 approached, panic over that bug, what became known as the Y2K, started to build.
That the Texas Department of Emergency Management recommends you keep on hand. Most items can be gathered at your local grocery store.
Like, really build. People thought the world was going to end. It was bad. What sparked the anxiety wasn't actually the bug itself. It was the realization that it could be anywhere. In banking systems, air traffic control, energy grids, healthcare equipment, utility networks, military command systems, fucking Fortnite servers. The entire digital architecture of the modern world that we had created was built on the assumption that the year could be written using only 2 digits. And that potentially was a very big mistake. The Y2K bug came from a very simple design decision. In the early days of computing, memory and storage were limited and expensive. So, to save space, programmers cut corners and often stored years using just 2 digits. So instead of 1969, it would just be 69. Ooh, 69 joke. And for the longest time, that actually worked fine. There were no issues until systems needed to handle the transition from 99 to 00. Computers that relied on that logic might interpret the year 2000 as 1900. A system calculating interest over time, processing insurance eligibility, or determining expiration dates realistically could and probably would crash. In some cases, systems might shut down entirely. And the scary part was, no one really knew how widespread this issue was. So, governments began ordering audits. Private companies, many of which had been slow to address the issue, suddenly found themselves racing against the clock. Code written decades earlier had to be combed through and rewritten. It literally caused a worldwide panic, all because people couldn't be fucked future-proofing. To be fair, that's something I'd do. The audits revealed just how far-reaching this issue was. The US federal government reviewed 6,000 critical systems. Banks performed stress tests to simulate failures in payment networks and ATMs. Hospitals found that some medical equipment actually failed during simulations of the date rollover. The US Social Security Administration found that many of its systems would actually stop processing claims entirely. Even nuclear power plants began testing embedded chips in their safety systems. And the panic wasn't just limited to these massive companies. In the months leading up to January 1st, 2000, grocery stores across North America reported spikes in non-perishable food sales. Sounds familiar.
Such items as non-perishable food, a manual can opener, personal hygiene items such as shampoo, soap, deodorant, and a toothbrush.
People withdrew large sums of money fearing bank systems might fail or ATMs might be inaccessible. National Guard units were quietly placed on standby in several states. In Canada, the government distributed emergency brochures. Australia set up a Y2K command center. Russia's military moved to monitor any system differences in nuclear facilities. This wasn't a joke. It really was actually on the brink of worldwide destructions. And in some parts of the US, people built full-on Y2K bunkers. I'm not kidding. They really thought society was about to crumble.
They've stocked their shelves with soups. Chicken noodle. More than you'd find in some convenience stores. Chicken noodle. Somebody really likes chicken noodle. Chicken noodle. Chicken noodle. Chicken noodle.
A few religious groups and apocalyptic movements interpreted the bug as a sign of the end times. Of course. The devil appears in the computer. As New Year's approached, the world held its breath. People held their loved ones and hoped for the best. The clock counted down. The year struck 2000 and then not much happened. But that's not the whole story. There were actually incidents that revealed just how close we came to things going wrong. In the United States, 132 nuclear plants were monitored in real time, and one in Pennsylvania actually had a failure in radiation monitoring systems. Worldwide, every single email address actually received an email with the exact same link, and that link led to my YouTube channel. And then it forced people to subscribe. What? How did that happen? Make sure you're subscribed. I really wanted that joke to be funnier. In Japan, 2 nuclear power plants experienced data errors. At one plant, a monitoring system miscalculated the date, but continued to operate safely. In South Korea, video rental stores reported huge late fees on customers' accounts. Their systems believed that videos returned in 2000 were 100 years overdue. In the United States, the Department of Defense reported 50 minor issues in its systems, mostly involving misstated emails and calendar rollovers, all that kind of bullshit. Now, look, these incidents didn't lead to chaos, but they weren't exactly nothing either. Critically, they demonstrated that the Y2K bug was in fact real. It could cause these failures, but for the most part, those failures were prevented because they were found and they were tested and then they were fixed before 2000 rolled around. Globally, estimates suggest over 300 billion US dollars were actually spent preparing for Y2K. One of the reasons people remember Y2K as a non-event is because of the success of these efforts. But it also sort of created a paradox because nothing catastrophic happened. Some now argue that the panic was actually overblown, but it really wasn't. If it wasn't for the engineers and the coders that worked to quickly patch the bug before 2000, it's pretty likely that a lot of systems worldwide would have crashed. So maybe the end of civilization was actually closer than you'd think. Maybe. In the years following 2000, some skeptics began suggesting that the threat of Y2K had been exaggerated to drive up consulting fees and software sales. Others argued that the government used Y2K to quietly stress test their disaster response infrastructure. And then some conspiracy theories claimed that the Y2K panic was a front for rolling out surveillance infrastructure or enacting super secret scary government plans. Or maybe it was aliens. Maybe it was aliens. In the end, Y2K didn't crash the world, but it did change the world. Today, Y2K is often remembered as an overblown scare story, but the reality is a lot more complex. The bug was real. The risk was real. We just narrowly avoided it. Hey guys, like, share, comment, subscribe.